Hello, and welcome to Community Matters. My name is Becky Steinbrunner, and I'm honored to be your host here this afternoon for the next 2 hours with some very special guests. And I hope you will stay tuned for the entire 2 hours. Our first guests for the first hour will be Roberta Roberts and Pete Johnson. Both are amateur radio operators who participated, along with many others, in the search and rescue effort in the San Lorenzo Valley last week. So I'm very honored to have them here with me for that first hour, and I invite you to call in if you also were part of that effort or if you have questions. The second hour will be a sort of a split program. The first half I'll be giving folks an update about the battery energy storage system, or BESS as it is known, situation in both Monterey and Santa Cruz counties, paying particular attention to the project that is in permit process in Watsonville at 90 Minto Road, and what people can do to weigh in on that project and contact their supervisors. And then the second half, we'll have a call-in guest, Miss Kris Kirby, who's a former Santa Cruz County resident, pulled up stakes and moved to Grants Pass, Oregon about a year ago, and boy, is she ever doing big things up there, going to Washington, D.C., and running for political office, so we'll be honored to have her as our guest for the last bit of the second hour. Again, you're listening to Community Matters, and my name is Becky Steinbrunner, and I am honored to be your host here. So, without further ado, Roberta Roberts and Pete Johnson, thank you both very much for being here in the studio and all that you do. I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves. Roberta, we'll go first to you.
All right. Thank you, Becky, for having us. I really appreciate your contacting us, and happy to be here. I'm Roberta Roberts. I'm with the Santa Cruz County Aries. I'm the net manager for them, and I'm also the acting district emergency coordinator currently, while our main one is out of town. And I'm the communications chief for Santa Cruz County CERT, which is Community Emergency Response Team. And Pete.
First of all, what is ARES?
I knew you were going to ask me that. I had it written down. Amateur Radio Emergency Service.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Pete, please.
Well, Becky, thanks for having us here today. My name is Pete Johnson. I'm an engineer, design integrated circuits in Santa Cruz, and I've been active in amateur radio for about 3 years now. And I'm also a member of ARES with Roberta. And so that's how I got involved with this whole process as well.
Excellent. Thank you. For many people maybe not familiar with amateur radio, describe for us what amateur radio is.
Why don't you take that?
You want me to take that?
No, I'll take yours.
Okay. Amateur radio is just a hobby involving radio, and I always like to tell people that it's not really just one hobby. It's really an umbrella under which there's a whole spectrum of different kinds of hobbies. People are interested in high-frequency radio, which lets them communicate around the world and have contests and do things like that. People are interested in satellites and communicating through satellites in space to other people on the ground. People just like talking on what we call repeaters, which are radios in high places or with good antennas that can relay information to other people. So you don't have to be really close to people to talk to other people. And some people like emergency services and emergency communication and do that, and they help out at public events like races, bicycle races, things like that, other kinds of public events that they'll do communications for. And then, of course, in case of an emergency, we can also step in and do communications there.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Roberta, tell us more about ARES and how ham radio fits into that, and what is ARES?
Yes, thanks, Becky. Amateur Radio Emergency Service, or ARES, is a group of licensed amateur radio operators, also called hams, who organize, train, and deploy as requested by any of our served agencies who need communications assistance, like the sheriffs, fire, OR3. We're designated disaster service workers as well. And we have weekly nets where we meet on one of the local repeaters, like Pete was talking about, and have a coordinated net with a leader called a net control operator. And then we practice checking in and passing traffic and doing such various radio exercises. We have a monthly meeting at the EOC, and as Pete was saying, we assist in various events for fun and actual communication assistance, like the Santa Cruz Triathlon, Race Through the Redwoods. And what we're doing there is relaying information on any accidents, the status of various participants, things like that, because cell phones don't work necessarily in these rugged areas, which is certainly what we found in the search for Jeannie Burke. And I would ask people to check our website, which is xczcomm.com. That's xczcomm.com. And if you're a licensed ham, you can click on registration for more information. And if you want to get your license, if you don't have a license and you're interested, you can go to hamstudy.org and find a list of upcoming test sites, and there are study tools there as well. And if you would rather do a live in-person class, we have those as well. Bob Fike is our wonderful trainer, and I do the admin, so you could contact me if you're interested, and I can put you in a list for an upcoming class, probably be this late spring at the EOC. And my email is Roberta, like Robert with an A, at slvaries.org. That's, I won't use phonetics, Sierra Lima Victor Alpha Romeo Echo Sierra.org. And I can put you on that list.
Excellent. Thank you. Now, some people may know this is ham radio. Amateur radio is ham radio. Some people used to be on CB radio. CB is not ham radio. So you want to make that clear distinction, right?
Yeah, Citizens Band Radio is a HF radio. 11 meters is the band. Anybody can use it. Radios are licensed by the FCC. They have very strict restrictions on the amount of power that they can have, what kind of antennas they can have, and things like that. Although with Citizens Band Radio, people routinely break those restrictions. And it's meant just for people to communicate however they want. It's not very popular anymore because it uses what's called the 11-meter band, which means that the radio waves are very long in wavelength, which means you need to have a big antenna for it to be effective. So mostly things that people would use to communicate with each other right now fall into what are called FRS or GMRS, which are more VHF or UHF.
Those are the walkie-talkies you can buy at Big Five, right?
Yeah, those walkie-talkies.
The days at the beach with your kids and things like that.
Right. In GMRS, you need to have a license. It's $35 from the FCC for you and your family for 10 years, so it's a pretty easy thing to get. And it lets you do a lot of things as well, similar to what we do in some aspects of amateur radio.
So with those, the license is simply paying money to the FCC, whereas amateur radio is much more involved. You have to take a test, you have to be knowledgeable of a lot of rules and the science of radio, a little more familiar with, correct?
A little more, but for the entry level, which is technician, probably 10 hours of good study on hamstudy.org or attending one of our classes. Pretty much everyone passes that takes our class and sticks to it to the end, of course. And I also wanted to mention that there are MERS radios, which multi-use radio service, and that's what CERT uses primarily for intercommunication within a squad, and that's what we were using for food distribution the last couple of weeks as well. So, yeah, in addition to FRS, GMRS, locally, CERT is using MERS, M-U-R-S, radios.
And that does not require a license.
No licensing, which is one reason why we chose it, because the GMRS licensing is for a family and not for an organization. So we were looking for the best option that we wouldn't be breaking the law, right?
Well, thank you. You've explained this very well. So now let's pivot over to what happened last week when ARES was activated to assist with the search and rescue effort. Talk with us about that.
You go for that one.
Okay, so our district emergency coordinator, who is John Gerhardt, he received a request from Search and Rescue, also known as SAR, on Wednesday afternoon, that would be the 19th of November, that they could use ARES' help with communications during the search for Jeannie Burke, continuing Wednesday afternoon and into the evening. So I was already packed for another deployment with CERT for the food distribution in Watsonville. So I didn't have a whole lot to pack. And I just threw a few things in the car and went on up to Bonnie Doon while John organized contacting ARES members to see who else could join us. And I mean, within an hour, hour and a half, we had 11 people there.
Wow.
And that was amazing. Either there or John was at the EOC as a liaison. So 10 people there, plus John at ARES. And why don't you talk about our purpose, Pete?
Our purpose?
What our mission was.
Well, what our mission is, in this case, was to do radio communications for the search and rescue effort. And what that entailed was there were quite a few teams. I believe Wednesday night there were on the order of 30 teams of people. Wow. With 3 to 4 people on a team who went out into the field, and they had areas that they were given to search that were mapped out on CalTopo, which is the mapping system that the search and rescue people are using. But the problem is that they can't be in communication with the people at the incident command center in the Bonnie Doon Fire Department. So what our job was to relay information from those teams in the field to the incident command center in Bonnie Doon. So we had amateur radio operators who were the communication center that were doing the communications. We had 2 teams in the field that were relay teams that then had radios to talk with the search and rescue teams and then relay their messages back to the communication center that then could talk to the people at the incident command center.
Describe for our listeners who may not be familiar with what the terrain in this area is. What did it look like, and why was it such a challenge?
Well, the Bonnie Doon area, especially the area that we were operating in, is very mountainous. It's very remote. The roads are very small. Lots of trees, very dense foliage. A number of teams that evening reported mountain lion sightings. Oh. So there was, a little bit of that as well. But the main effect on communications is that radio doesn't go very far. We can talk great distances if we have what we call line of sight, which is you can effectively see the other radio that you're communicating with. But if you don't have line of sight, it diminishes quite a bit, and certainly the radio is not going to go through hills and mountains and things. Yeah. So that's why we needed to use these relay stations. And then the other important thing was that we could communicate with the communication center because we have an amateur radio repeater, W6TUW is its call sign, in that area. So what we were doing was talking on walkie-talkies to teams in the field, and then we would relay their information over our amateur radio repeater to the communication center that would then talk to the sheriff's department about instructions. And, it was, if a team had finished one area, what was the next area they were supposed to search and that sort of thing.
So the search teams were using a different type of radio than amateur radio. And you folks there with ARES were the go-between between their different radios and what they were saying and relaying that to the main center at the Bonnie Doon Fire Station.
Yes, and I want to mention that the W6TUW repeater is up on Pine Ridge in Bonnie Doon at a pretty high location. And Dennis and Susan Mason host that at their house, and we're grateful to them for
Yes.
that. And the problem was that, that wasn't, even that location ultimately didn't end up being ideal for doing communications straight to the ground.
Yeah.
So
Because of the
we employed
canyons,
that
right?
because of the canyons and the terrain and the
Yeah.
hills and dells and such.
Wow. So, what did you do when you first got there, when you were first assigned? What did you do? How did you get organized and deployed?
So I arrived first because I got the first phone call, and just went to the command post, found my search and rescue person, and things were pretty, up in the air as people were coming in from all over to deploy. And we really didn't know what we were going to be doing. It hadn't been clearly presented yet. Mm-hmm. So we waited a bit, and then we were told that they wanted 2 operators in the sheriff's van to do net control, and that they would really like a couple of teams to go out in the field and provide this relay that Pete was talking about. So it was more ranch relay and back ranch relay. So we assigned people to these 2 different teams, and they pretty much went out and had to find the spot that they could to start this relay process. Is that, and from your side of it, Pete, how did that go? In the dark, in the cold?
It was getting dark and cold. For me, I was leaving a robotics class that I teach at a middle school and called out on our local repeater, and that's when John reached out to me and asked if I could go up there. So I went to my house and grabbed a jacket and some rain gear because it was going to be raining later on, and headed up. We got there, and there was some waiting as people were getting organized and search and rescue teams were arriving and getting their information about what the search parameters were and where they would be. And then we got the coordinates of where we were supposed to go to do the relay. And then, we headed out. We had 2 vehicles that went to each relay location. We generally use the radios for communication through our repeater. Those are usually mobile radios that are in our vehicles. But it was important to have 2 vehicles at each location so that if somebody needed to go for some reason, go run an errand, go back to the command center, do that sort of thing, we could still have somebody at the relay location. So.
And also redundancy in equipment. If
Yep.
something fails, you don't want to be the only one there.
Yeah. 2 is 1 and 1 is none.
Well, so how long were you out in the field that first night? How long that first night were you in the sheriff's van as incident command?
So that first day where we had 10 people there locally, the folks out in the field were there for almost 8 hours. And I was there, looks like 10 hours till 1:30 in the morning on the 20th.
Wow.
So it was a long operation as they were really trying to get a good start going. And eventually, we did not have any luck in searching for Jeannie. So day 2 happened. Once people kind of got their mojo going on how to do this communications and such, things changed a little bit the next day. And a couple of folks, Pete and Deborah Lewis, both were called in to potentially deploy, but deputies had decided they wanted to use the Pine Ridge Relay area with Glenn Heimovitz and a SAR radio at that location, which was right next to W6TUW. So that was our next experiment, was trying that relay. And Deborah and Pete were told to stand by, or stand down, actually. And then we continued that day. Yeah, go ahead.
We might want to back up, and so we were doing the relay on Wednesday evening until about 9:30 p.m., when then a Civil Air Patrol aircraft arrived on scene.
That's right.
And started doing the relay service as well. So
Describe the Civil Air Patrol for people who may not know what that is.
Civil Air Patrol is, I don't know the exact legalities of it, but it's a nonprofit corporation which, when activated on something such as what they were doing in this instance, are actually then a branch of the Air Force. So they have this kind of military adjacent, normally, and then they actually become effectively part of the military when they are doing things like this. So
they're volunteers, though, right?
They are volunteers. Yeah. It's all volunteer
Wow.
organization. So what happened once the aircraft arrived on scene is, as we were talking before, it's really difficult to do communication because of the mountainous terrain. And so we have one of our repeaters, W6TUW, is up on a mountain ridge, and that gets it up elevated, so it has a better line of sight to all of these different teams. But if you go and you put that same kind of thing in an aircraft at 6,000 or 7,000 feet that's circling around the area, you have a great location.
Yeah.
So once it arrived on scene, the aircraft has a pilot and then a radio operator. And that radio operator basically was doing the exact same thing that we were doing on the ground with being a relay. So teams on the ground, in addition to contacting us, could also contact the aircraft, and then the aircraft could relay back to our communications team at the communications center.
Wow. Was the radio operator in the plane an amateur radio operator?
No. So they were using, for the communications in the field, we're using public service radios. And so those are licensed by the FCC to the different public services organizations. So we were using a channel called VSAR 16, which was a California search and rescue interagency frequency that all of the search and rescue teams in California, all of their radios can use that frequency. And you have to remember, these teams aren't just coming from Santa Cruz. These teams are coming from all over.
Yes.
So
many counties came. I was reading Santa Cruz County, Fresno County, San Mateo County, Contra Costa, Placer, Marin, San Luis Obispo, and Merced.
yeah,
We're all involved.
That's just the first. And then we got Yolo and Placer, Alameda.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
it was a big operation.
Yeah.
There were anywhere between 80 and 110 volunteers there each day.
Yeah.
And the air support, also called Hybrid, ended up being a great success in relaying. So that's why our relay team stood down, and they became the primary relay for us down at the command
From
post.
the air.
Yeah.
But you, Roberta, still stayed active at the incident command. Is that correct?
Well, yes, because we still had to relay the information
Yeah.
from Hybrid, from
Yeah.
the airplane.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that continued on. That's pretty much what continued on for the next 4 days, was relaying between us and Hybrid. And then we also tried putting up a SAR radio back up there at Pine Ridge, because one day the plane was fogged in Palo Alto, so they couldn't arrive. They didn't arrive until 10:45. And so we quickly deployed Dan, our Dan Selling, with a radio, and he went out close to where the Division A group was. This is a different day when things changed as far as how the relays were done. But he went out to relay, and we had a radio up on Pine Ridge right next to the W6TUW radio, in hopes that he would be able to provide a relay. And that was minimally successful. And we determined that it was nothing in comparison to the airplane in the sky,
Hybrid.
of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we ended up standing those both down and just continuing with the local relay from command post to and from Hybrid. Mostly regarding, the status of people, any finds, clues that they found, relaying those to the command post, assignments, fairly routine traffic.
Yeah. Wow. If you're just tuning in, welcome to Community Matters. My name's Becky Steinbrunner, and I'm honored to be your host here with two extraordinary guests, Roberta Roberts and Pete Johnson, both amateur radio operators who helped with the communication efforts last week in the Bonnie Doon area for a missing elderly woman. And it was a phenomenal effort. I wish that she could have been found, and I keep holding out that she will be found somewhere with a friend or something. But the search effort was phenomenal and involved many agencies. The amateur radio community, ARES, Amateur Radio Emergency Services, assisted in a great way, called in by the Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Search and Rescue effort. And to me, that speaks so highly of amateur radio, ARES, your training, your discipline, and that you are greatly respected for your abilities to assist in these things. So we're very lucky to have you here in Santa Cruz County, and I want to thank you. You and all the others. Roberta, you had a number of people who assisted. Did you want to name them?
Absolutely, yes. We had 10 people show up that very first evening.
At a moment's notice.
At a moment's notice.
Yes.
They were there in an hour-ish.
Yeah.
And those, I'm not going to give their call signs because that won't be meaningful to our listeners, but I'll give you their names. Dan Selling, Christian Turnus, Jo Marie Falkerson, Ed Austin, Glenn Heimovitz, Lisa Shallop, Andrew Gaines, Jim Wasson, Pete Johnson, John Gerhardt was at the EOC, as I mentioned, as a liaison, and myself, Roberta Joyner Roberts. And then we had Dennis and Susan Mason at the W6TUW site who were also helpful doing relays later, etc. And then later on, we had additional folks, Tammy Snyder. Let's see. Sorry.
No, thank you.
Tom Arns. And Mike Puchel.
Excellent.
Yes. So 14 total operators plus Dennis and Susan, 16 people. We put in over 206 hours of volunteer radio communications assistance.
Wow.
And that doesn't include all of our commute times, which for me was about 45 minutes each way. So if you had all the running back and forth time, it was quite an effort.
Indeed. Well, thank you to you and all of those people. And for you listening, you can't see it, but Roberta is looking through her sign-in logs from the event where people actually signed in the day and volunteered their time and their equipment to help in this search and rescue effort. Aside from the terrain, what was maybe one of the more challenging things that helped you learn something you didn't know before? I'll let you decide who goes first.
Oh, you should. Okay. Well, one of the things I learned is that the Sheriff's Department is very well organized when it comes to search and rescue. Digital mapping is something that they use. The U.S. Army was there on subsequent days with satellite trackers and relaying us tracking information for teams in the field. Just the interagency support that happened. It was really impressive to see that amount of dedication and that amount of planning and training, obviously, that went into this.
Yeah.
So that was good to see. So that was something for me that I learned, which was good. And then also learning about where my equipment and where all of our equipment and things were lacking. Having radios that can communicate, if necessary, with the search and rescue teams, having the right kind of antennas, that sort of thing. And so we're going to be meeting and going over kind of an analysis of what happened there. The aircraft was really clutch. It really helped out a lot. But then the thing that goes through my mind is, well, what would you do if that wasn't there?
Yeah.
If that never was able to show up, if it was a large enough, wide enough emergency that their just resources were too thin, then how would we communicate? What would we have done? How would we have organized without having that there? So there's a lot, I think, that we learned about what we need to do in the future.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of these things. You learn something every time, and it gets better and better and better. Yeah. Roberta, how about you?
Yes, well, it was interesting because when I arrived, I didn't know what to expect. Yeah. And I was shift supervisor for the next 5 days. And if I knew on day 5 if I had known on day 1 what I knew on day 5, things might have gone a little smoother. But there's always chaos at the beginning of something like that. So once we got tuned in to the topo maps and the National Guard trackers, and, by the last day we had an iPad with all the trackers showing on it, which we could have used on day 1, but we didn't know to ask for it.
Yeah.
So, now I've learned so much about the tools that may be present that we can ask for up front. Because the main incident command people, they are so busy organizing their people, they don't have time to handhold us and, tell us this is what you need to do and this is where you need to go and all of that. We need to be proactive and know, as much as we can what to expect. So I think I learned so much about what to expect and what to ask for at the beginning so that we're not left in the dark for so long. Because there were, every day was a little bit crazy as we determined, how was it going to work today,
Yeah.
And, what tools do we have?
Every day was a little bit different.
Yes.
And I remember we had troubles on Friday because they wanted to have people not transport themselves, the team self-transport. But then transportation became a big issue and tracking transportation people. And that was, then we were like, okay, we're going to fix this. And we talked with, the sheriff's department, and they were like, okay, tomorrow we're going to have everybody self-transport if they can. And so that helped. Roberta and I figured out, this is how we're going to log things. We're going to get more organized about that so that, the information is kind of in the right place.
Yes, Pete was a great help with that. Because I just had papers everywhere. I was writing things and scribbling things, and which after the fact became challenging to do my reporting because I had so many different papers.
I understand.
And once we got a ledger, the steno books, and we just started flipping pages, everything was in order, and we had one for each station, and a check-in for transportation that we could go to. And Pete was a great organizer in that regard. So I learned a lot about that part of it as well, organizing.
Excellent. Everybody brings a different talent and skill, and that's the beauty of these cooperative efforts. People are good team members.
Yes.
I'm going to invite anyone who would like to call in now if you were part of the effort or have questions or comments. My guests here are Roberta Roberts and Pete Johnson. They were instrumental in the emergency communication aspects of the search and rescue effort in the San Lorenzo Valley, Bonnie Doon area for a woman who has not yet been found, Jeannie Burke. And we're going to all hold our prayers and hopes for her and her family. Call in if you'd like to join the conversation. The number is 831-265-5050. And join the conversation, and we invite you to do so. I wondered at the time about the safety and well-being of the volunteers. Talk with us a little bit about how you were taken care of in your long hours that you spent there, or were you self-sufficient?
I would say that we're taught to be self-sufficient.
Yes.
But we had the W6TUW repeater that we had a direct link from the command post to the teams that were in the field, the relay teams. And, there was no problem with that communication, which was great. I'm not sure how the teams in the field felt, but I felt like we had a handle on them. But, I think it was a little bit frustrating because there were two different vehicles. So the person in the other vehicle, maybe if they'd all been in one canopy or something, it would have maybe made for better communication amongst them. But as far as safety goes, I'll let Pete talk to how that felt out in the field.
Yeah, how were those mountain lions, Pete?
They were in a car, so.
Actually, no, we weren't. No, because we had handheld radios, so we actually had to have the radio outside in order for that to work effectively. So that's one of the takeaways that I have, is to make sure and get a public services antenna that I can use on my car. But I thought Becky was talking more about food. So
And that too.
So so Red Cross was there providing food for everybody. It wasn't it's not like it was an a la carte menu. You could get whatever you wanted. But there was plenty of calories to be had. And then safety was a very high priority, and especially on Wednesday night, because we knew it was going to start raining eventually during our activation, and while people were out in the field, and it was dark, and the terrain is very hazardous. So there was a lot of talk to the teams to be careful, don't have any other injuries, don't make this be a rescue for something else.
Yeah.
So that was a concern. And of course, like I said, there were multiple sightings of mountain lions, and so teams were reporting that as well.
Yeah.
So it cold as well. It was a pretty chilly evening.
Yeah.
And then on subsequent days, in the briefings, they were always, careful about the different hazards that were out there: poison oak, ticks, things like that. Falling. There's a lot of steep terrain. There's a lot of cliffs. There was one team reported that there was a cave, and were they supposed to search the cave or not? And so things like that. There's what was called a Type 1 team that we learned, which is a team that is equipped with climbing equipment. And so some of the different locations required, ropes and belaying people and things like that. So there's quite a bit of attention paid to safety.
Yeah.
Because it's possible to be quite dangerous.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
We have a caller, Dennis. Susan Mason is here. Do you want to accept that call?
Yes.
Sure.
Let us do that. I'm going to ask you to put on your headphones so you can hear what they're saying. Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Hello.
Hi. Susan, hello. This is Becky Steinbrunner. You're joining us here with Roberta Roberts and Pete Johnson. Welcome to the conversation, and thank you for your good work during this effort. What would you like to say?
I wanted to give a big shout out to both Justin Cummings and to the Bonnie Doon Fire Safe Council. Justin gave the council $5,000 from the CUP tax, and then the Bonnie Doon Fire Safe Council voted to help finance putting the antenna for the W6TUW repeater up at 60 feet. We had to hire a crane. It was really the only way to do it. So a big shout out. It made it much more effective than it would otherwise have been. So I just wanted to say thank you for that and give credit where we really got a good leg up.
That's excellent. Roberta or Pete, do you want to talk about that? How important it was that the WR6TUW repeater was so well equipped.
Absolutely. And the fact that Dennis and Susan were right there ready to help come and get a radio, put it up at a good location for that last day, and how wonderful it was for the district supervisor to get that money arranged so that could happen. And we really appreciate that.
That is great. So 3rd District County Supervisor Justin Cummings made sure that this equipment was funded so that it could be ready to serve and effective. $5,000 from the county's cup tax. I always wondered where that money went, so I'm very happy to
I
hear.
think the supervisors have discretion over what they want to do with it each year.
Uh-huh. Well, $5,000 is a good amount of money, and I'm glad it went to help that emergency communication equipment, and also that the Bonnie Doon Fire Safe Council helped get the bucket truck in to raise the antenna. Did I get that right?
That's correct. It was an exciting day.
Excellent, excellent. Susan, you were there. You and Dennis were monitoring a lot. What are your thoughts on the search and rescue effort, if you'd like to chime in?
It sounded about par for the course, a little disorganized at first, but then things seemed to gel very well. And every situation like that, I was the district emergency coordinator many years ago for a 5-county area, and I noticed that each emergency is a bit different, and you're kind of just building the system from the ground up. And it's just like, be flexible and try to figure out what needs to happen. And as much as possible, be self-contained.
Uh-huh. Excellent. Well, thank you. I think for being a responsive ham radio operator and also an extraordinary community volunteer. You have served the Bonnie Doon community very, very well over many, many years, and I'm very grateful for all that you and Dennis have done and continue to do. Do you have anything else you would like to relay, what you learned in all of this effort for search and rescue? It was a little bit different than the CZU fire, wasn't it?
Very different. I wasn't at the end of a hose on my property during this one.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was interesting being at a fixed location rather than actually, out running around. But I figured probably best to stay here where we could make sure that the repeater kept working well and everything was, maintained.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It is a phenomenal repeater with great range throughout the area. So thank you for hosting it at your home and making sure that it is in good working order.
All right, and thank you for your lovely program. I'm going to sign off now.
All right. Thank you very much. Give our regards to Dennis.
I'll do that.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Roberta, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just thought people might be interested in a couple of things that happened during this communication period. We had, of course, the search and rescue teams out, and they were in pairs of 2 on this particular day 4. And one team came upon a 58-year-old mountain biker who had crashed and was bleeding profusely from his head. And they called that in, and within a minute, another team that had a nurse on the team was nearby and came over to assist with medical evaluation and management. And then eventually they had to litter him out with fire. Fire came, and to a life flight helicopter that had landed to pick him up. And this was totally coincidental to our mission, which of course was looking for Jeannie Burke. But thank goodness they were there.
I'll say.
Because he was, pretty incoherent and all of that. And, it was a lifesaver, literally, for this gentleman.
Was he off the road? Would he not have been seen readily had these teams not been there?
So he was not on a road because he had to be littered to a road. And I don't know if he was with a partner or not, if someone was with him or not. But there was no cell coverage. So perhaps that SOS thing on your phone would work. I'm not too sure about that. I've never tried it. But we weren't privy to all of the information. We were just relaying. So
that was a great
life-saving thing.
Indeed. What other kind of human aspect of this search and rescue came up for you in terms of people you met that were very interesting? What else happened on a human level up there?
Well, there were the people from all different areas, the sheriff's department, the search and rescue people, volunteers, the people from the Civil Air Patrol, just people who have a different set of skills, and seeing how they all interoperate and do that was good. There was one amateur radio operator Wednesday night, Christian. I'd never met him before, so that was good. Lisa I'd known, and so it was good time to just be out there with friends and acquaintances and using your skills together. It builds a little bit of camaraderie, and that's kind of good. So yeah,
that's always good. Team building is
team building.
Yeah.
Yes, and once I had a chance with two people in the van, and I could roam a little bit as shift supervisor. I enjoyed talking with the various search and rescue folks who would either come in and were awaiting their assignment, where they'd come from. People came from Ventura County, as you said, Fresno, Yolo, all over the place. And it was interesting to talk with them and hear their stories.
Yeah.
And how they came to this. It was really amazing how many different locations provided search and rescue, which I'm assuming we do the same when something happens in their location as well. Our search and rescue folks also help them out.
Yeah.
Yeah. On Wednesday, it was interesting. We're heading back, and there was trying to arrange transportation for different teams and working all of that stuff out. And there was one team that wanted to be brought back, and so it was a team of 4, and so we managed to pile everybody into my pickup truck, along with Lisa, and we're coming back. And I was talking with the gentleman who was the lead for the team, and the other 3 people on the team were high school students.
Wow. And
I was really surprised. On Wednesday night, it was very apparent that a lot of the people were young people. And he said that they really like having high school students do this sort of thing because they have a lot of stamina, a lot of energy, and they really like doing it. And he said this team, he'd led them before. They were doing another wilderness search and rescue, and he said they really liked top lining out of a helicopter for the insertion, and then also being picked up by the helicopter to get extracted. It was pretty cool for a high school student, so I thought so too. So they were nice kids.
Yeah. And they were from where?
I don't know where they were from.
Yeah. Wow. That is really nice.
Yeah.
When Santa Cruz Voice has broadcast from the Santa Cruz County Fair, we often have young people come up, and some of them are with the Civil Air Patrol cadets, and they really show an extraordinary level of interest and enthusiasm. So it's great that the youth are getting involved in things like this, always. Yeah.
Yes, and I didn't mention that we were sharing the sheriff's van with the Civil Air Patrol. And originally it was just George by himself with his equipment. And then eventually he had a few trainees that would come and visit, and train and take over from him. So it was fun to watch that interaction and meet some of those younger cadets and more experienced folks who also came just to relieve George.
Yeah. Nice. We have some youth involved in amateur radio in our county as well. Do you want to talk about that and how we can encourage more youth to get involved?
Absolutely. Yes, we have a couple that just turned 18, so now they don't have to be chaperoned anymore. But they bring an incredible amount of energy to the group, and like Pete said, stamina, which is always appreciated, and just phenomenal personalities and interests that you talk about it, Pete. I mean, they're just great.
Well, that's one of the nice things about amateur radio that I really like is that usually in many of the things that you do, the people that you do it with are kind of in the same social group that you're in. And amateur radio kind of cuts through that, and you see people from all different socioeconomic backgrounds and cultural backgrounds in amateur radio, which is really nice. And young people are interested in it. As I mentioned before, I teach a robotics class at a local middle school, and one of my students has already gotten his amateur radio license, and I have 2 or 3 more who are studying for it, and the next time they can manage to find a test, they'll do that, and they'll get their license as well. So they're very interested in radio. So in addition to robotics, we have little chats about radio and learn things about radio and play around with SDRs and things like that.
Nice.
So yeah, we have a fun time with that too. So it's definitely something that's, appealing to kids, even though there's other things like, video games and the internet and things like that. There really is something kind of magical about radio, that they can take a radio and go talk to their friends between their houses or something with, just that. No internet needed.
And when the internet goes out,
there's that too.
ham radio is still there.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is bringing an increased interest from the general public for emergency preparedness in terms of getting licensed for amateur radio, so that we all know information is key. And when the internet goes down, phones go down, cell phones go down, ham radio is kind of the go-to, isn't it?
Yeah, and one thing I want to mention is that just having the amateur radio license doesn't get you too far. It makes you legal to transmit on a radio, but it doesn't give you the experience and practice that is so necessary for using proper etiquette so that you can be heard when we're monitoring from the EOC and what the protocols are. So that's where it's really helpful to join NETS and join ARES if you're interested in that emergency aspect.
Yeah.
So I just want to mention, just getting a license isn't quite enough. You need to train and be prepared.
Build that muscle
Yes.
memory and know how to effectively use it. We are nearly at the end of the hour. The time has gone quickly. What do you want to say with our last few minutes here? What would you do this again? And I'll let you finish the program. And thank you both so much, Roberta Roberts and Pete Johnson.
So I would say absolutely I would do it again. It was a wonderful experience. I'm very, very sad that we were unable to locate Jeannie Burke, and I'm still holding out hope for some resolution of that. But absolutely I would do it again, and I know this is the bread and butter that ARES loves. Right, Pete?
Yeah, of course. So, as for doing this again, well, of course, it's, using your skills to help your community is always something that you want to do, and to be able to help people specifically, individually as well. And then I also encourage people to explore amateur radio as a hobby. We have what I think is definitely one of the best amateur radio clubs in Santa Cruz in the country. It's been in existence since 1916, so we have over a century of history. People are very welcoming, very open, very friendly. And as a hobby, there's all different aspects to amateur radio that you can explore. And there's always somebody to do that with. So it's a techie thing, it's a technical thing, but it's also a social thing, and it can be as much one of those things or the other as you want. So it's really it really is a great hobby and a great thing for people to get interested in. So I encourage anybody who is a little bit curious to contact our amateur radio club. K6bj.org is our website, and explore amateur radio and see what it might have to offer for you as well.
Excellent. Thank you both very much.
Thanks,
I think
Becky.
we're off the air now, and I want to thank you for your time and your
Sure, we're really off
Okay.
the air. We really are.
No problem.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
great.
you so much.
Okay.
That was
great.
beautiful.
Okay.
And you're welcome to come back anytime.
Okay.
There's something else you want to talk about with ham radio.
Yeah. Well.
Well, maybe we can talk about search sometime.
Yeah.
That would be good. That would be good.
Yeah.
And summer field day, some of those things
Winterfield Day is coming up.
Winterfield Day.
I actually like Winterfield
Yeah,
Day more than
I do
Summerfield
too.
Day.
Because you can go inside where it's warm at the Posse House.
No, I was outside the whole
Oh, you
time.
were, but you've got a Cadillac setup out there.
Oh yeah, there's no heater though.
All right, well, thank
It
you,
was fun.
Becky. It was our
Yeah.
pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, Becky.
I really
That's great.
It was fun.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Taking care of yourself.
Okay, will do.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And Roberta, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you both so
I
much.
hope it went
It
well
was
for you.
great, and I'm
Okay.
glad Susan called in. It was
Yes, I
really
am
nice.
too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
You know, Lisa had told me about that $5,000, but I had written it down somewhere and I didn't have all the specifics, so I wanted to mention it, but then
You're not sure.
Yeah,
But
so
I'm glad
I'm
she
glad
has it.
Susan
That's
did.
great. I'm gonna write Justin Cummings and
Yeah,
thank
there
him.
you go.
Thank you. Take care. All right. You've been listening to Community Matters. This is technically the break time in the studio. However, I know by listening to the recordings that this is part of the recording, and so anyone listening to the recording from the webpage will hear what I am saying now, even though it's not going out on the air. So I just want to recap a little bit about the effort. The search for Jeannie Burke, a 76-year-old, I think, woman from the Bonnie Doon area, had been seen 4:30 walking along some very remote areas up off of Smith Grade in Bonnie Doon, and then not seen, not accounted for, and the Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Office enacted a search and rescue effort. That brought about the request for the amateur radio operators to help with communications in order to free up the sheriffs who could have done that, but knew that the amateur radio operators could do that for them and free up the sheriff's officers to be out in the field helping to search for Jeannie Burke. So that speaks well of the well-trained, well-disciplined amateur radio operators, and that they have the respect of the Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Department and search and rescue personnel. We should be very glad to have that in our county and know that these people are all volunteers. They are all volunteers. And as Roberta said, over 206 hours volunteered by radio operators alone. There were over 100, well, she said anywhere from 80 to 110 volunteers searching every day, and it went from Wednesday through Sunday evening when finally efforts were called off without any success. But as Roberta said, we will all hold hope for Jeannie Burke to be found safe and sound. Perhaps she was picked up by a friend and is in some place where they just haven't heard about this search. We're just going to hope for the best. But in any rate, many thanks to all of those agencies who did come and volunteer their time to search for her. You're listening to Community Matters, and I will be back on the air in about 45 seconds. So I want to thank you for staying tuned for our second hour. And that will be also a very interesting program, split up between a couple of different programs, a report on the battery energy storage situation in Monterey and Santa Cruz County, and then the second half, a call-in from a former Santa Cruz County resident, Kris Kirby. All right, we're going to go back on the air now. Welcome back to Community Matters. I'm honored to be your host here for another hour. My name is Becky Steinbrunner, and I am here every Friday afternoon between 2 and 4 p.m. on Community Matters, because it certainly does. My aim is to bring information and guests to you, the listeners, and to have you, the listeners, join the conversation. Our first hour here today was in the studio. We had Roberta Roberts and Pete Johnson. They were both very instrumental in the search and rescue effort, handling communication. Everybody had a job, and the amateur radio operators that took part in that under the umbrella of ARES, Amateur Radio Emergency Services, were asked by the Santa Cruz County Sheriff and Search and Rescue Team to help with communications, and they did it beautifully. If you have I have great respect for them and all of those who helped with that effort. I want to now pivot. The one piece I want to say is that Santa Cruz County is somewhat of an anomaly in terms of the high number of amateur radio operators licensed in the county. It is has a very high number, over 2,000, and it is high for different reasons, but oftentimes it is the only method of communication during emergencies when all else is gone. And over time, many people have come to see this and appreciate it and become licensed and become trained. So as Roberta mentioned at the end, it is not just getting a license, getting a radio and putting it in the drawer. You really need to get out your radio and train with other amateur radio operators so that you're aware of how to properly and politely and with discipline convey information, listen to information, and follow up on what is needed. So build that muscle memory and get your license, and you'll be good to go the next emergency. Again, this is Community Matters. My name is Becky Steinbrunner, and I'm happy to be here with you for another hour. Today, this next half hour, I want to give people an update on what is happening regarding the Santa Cruz County and Monterey County Battery Energy Storage System, or BESS, situation. I have been bringing this to the program every week since the Moss Landing fire in January of this year, because I am very concerned about it. I am very concerned that many of our local leaders are not talking about it, and the Moss Landing fire was truly a disaster, and it has been very troubling to me that Monterey County has not been given any information about what is in the debris that is now being trucked on our local roads coming from this burned site. Monterey County has been receiving somewhat of the supervisors have been receiving some information, but as we heard from our guest last week, 2nd District County Supervisor in Monterey, Mr. Glenn Church, he really has not gotten much information either. Not from the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, who is working hand in hand with the Moss 300 Vistra battery owners, and not that much really from the county itself either. The November 18th Monterey County Board of Supervisor meeting had a report from Monterey County Environmental Health, and they had really nothing to report. That they would be hoping in maybe January or March they'll have something to report. How can that be? Well, as we learned last week, Supervisor Church had enacted had proposed that a moratorium on battery energy storage systems be enacted in Monterey County in order to essentially push forward Monterey County's efforts to create rules about how these projects are allowed and cited and monitored within the county. The moratorium was rejected by the supervisors, but Supervisor Church felt that it was the effort had merit because now it must be worked on. It moved it up on the county's priority list, which to me is pretty amazing given that this happened in Moss Landing and that the county had not even started to work on rules for any approvals of other projects that are coming down the pike. And there are some. The Clearway project proposed to be in Moss Landing is a 750 megawatt battery energy storage project. That's a big one. And it would go right there again at Moss Landing. And it will, unless Monterey County gets its act together, that project could take the very same process that the Moss 300 project took, was simply approval by the Planning Commission. It never went to the Board of Supervisors. So let's hope that Monterey County will get moving and enact their rules. And now, taking a look at Santa Cruz County, what we've got to work with is a project that is already in permit process, and that is the Seahawk BESS Battery Energy Storage System project at 19 Minto Road in Watsonville. That is already in the permitting process with Santa Cruz County Planning Department. The developers, it's called New Leaf Energy, no relation to the market. New Leaf Energy is going to be the installer, the developer, but the funder behind it is Sequoia Energy LLC. And that is a Canadian-based company that wants to get in on the action here in Santa Cruz County, putting in explosive, flammable, toxic lithium batteries. It would be a different chemistry than what we saw go up in flames in Moss Landing in January, but it is a chemistry that also is prone to fire, explosions, and when it does catch fire, and they do, it emits a higher level of carcinogens and toxic gas than the chemistry that we saw go up in flames in Moss Landing. It does not have the heavy metals that the nickel, manganese, cobalt chemistry of the Moss Landing fire had, but it still has the problem of hydrofluoric acid being formed when the gases go into the atmosphere, and that is extremely hazardous. Firefighters in Sacramento in April responded to a lithium fire with this chemistry, the lithium iron phosphate chemistry that this New Leaf Energy system wants to put in, and they thought they were safe. They were over 300 feet away when they took off their breathing apparatus, and on the way back from the incident became ill and went to the hospital and learned that their lungs were damaged because they had breathed in the hydrofluoric acid, and it damaged their lungs permanently by 20%. They cannot return to work. So that's what New Leaf Energy wants to put in Watsonville's area, right next to a very densely populated working class neighborhood. The Shapiro Knolls affordable housing complex is right there, and just downwind is the Diamond Estates, a very dense working class subdivision. And College Lake is right there, and across the way downwind is the Santa Cruz County Fairgrounds, our county's primary evacuation site. So what can you do? The main thing to do in Santa Cruz County and in Monterey County is to contact your county supervisor and insist that they, in Monterey County, that they get going with that ordinance, the rules. My other guest last week was Mr. Philip Carunco, who is a world-renowned regulatory policy expert. He sat down and wrote a draft ordinance for these types of projects that can be easily adapted to any jurisdiction as a gift. It's a gift to them. And these jurisdictions can certainly use that, and he invites jurisdictions to do so, especially Monterey County, especially Santa Cruz County, his home county. That's not what's happening in Santa Cruz County. The New Leaf Energy developer is behind the scenes writing our county's rules to suit their project. And that's why you will see so much language about agricultural land conversion, because rather than public safety, because this project at 90 Minto Road would take out of agricultural production a parcel that is 38 acres. Santa Cruz County has an ordinance on the books approved by the voters from the 1978 time saying we will not take out agricultural land from production. We will protect agricultural land from production. And here is this set of rules now coming before the Santa Cruz County Board of Supervisors for the first time on November 18th. The first look that the public had at it, the first look that it was ever discussed. And there it is. Very, very little about public safety. Very, very little about preserving agricultural land. In fact, it talks about how it can be taken out of production and just simply put land somewhere else into an easement, a conservation easement. Well, what do you think about that? Feel free to call in. Here's the number, 831-265-5050. Now, last week, when we talked about this, it had been reported that the next day after the November 18th Santa Cruz County Board of Supervisor meeting, where they had almost a 4-hour discussion about these new rules, it had been during the conversation, all of the talk was that this was going to come back in an amended form to the supervisors and the public, let's not forget that, in March. And that was what everybody walked away thinking. But the next day, the very next day, there was a news article in Lookout Santa Cruz, one of the two online news, local news media services, that quoted, the reporter was Tanya Ortiz, and she quoted Santa Cruz County Public Information Officer, Mr. Jason Hoppin, that this would be coming back to the board on January 13th. This was the next day. So who was giving that information? She quoted Jason Hoppin. I wrote a letter to the county supervisors, and unfortunately, I did not copy the language in the article that Mr. Jason Hoppen said the meeting would be coming back, ordinance would be coming back January 13th, and that many of the safeguards that the supervisors had been asking for were really in there. They just didn't understand them, things like that. Well, I wrote to the Board of Supervisors and just asked, what's going on here? What is happening here? None of the supervisors or their staff ever responded. However, when just a couple of days ago, when I was looking into this article again, preparing to copy and paste the language quoted from Jason Hoppen, it was gone. Now that's the danger of digital news services. It can change in a click of a button. And that, in fact, is what happened. Now the article has no quote at all by Jason Hoppen, no mention at all of the January 13th Board of Supervisors meeting to consider the amended BESS ordinance. Only at the bottom, Tanya Ortiz, the reporter, has said that the article has been updated to include comments from the developer. Well, that's maybe true, but not completely true. So I learned whenever I do things like that, I'm not just going to simply copy and paste the link to the article. I'm going to copy and paste the language that I am referring to in any letter. I urge you to contact your county supervisors. They need to hear from you. They need to hear what you want. They need to hear why you think it is not a good idea, and I'm hoping that you have this opinion that I share with you, that putting these explosive, flammable, toxic battery containers next to neighborhoods is not the thing to do. I urge you to look into other sites. The supervisors have said that in the language of the rules that these facilities, these storage facilities, must be near substations. That's not true. They do not have to be there. They could be in other areas, but it is cheaper for the developer to put them there. And so that's why the New Leaf folks are writing this into our county's rules, so it effectively eliminates alternative sites that might be better placed in industrial areas, in more remote areas that are not next to power substations. But there are a couple that are. There are some remotely located substations. There's one up on Empire Grade Road next to the Cow Fire Training Center and the minimum security prison. And there's one on Warnella Road up in the North Coast area near Davenport. There's one near the old cement factory, and one near the Santa Cruz City dump on, that's not the politically correct term, but it's a dump, the waste management facility, there we go, that is right next to that facility that would be more remote and maybe more properly placed than next to a dense working class neighborhood. The County of Santa Cruz's rules do not even include residential areas as what are known as sensitive receptors and would garner or merit 1,000 feet setback even under the new rules. That's not far enough, if you ask me, but there it is. Not even including residential areas as sensitive receptors. So the main thing now is to write your county supervisor and ask him or her when the new rules are going to be made public. Write your county supervisor and ask him or her that there be a professional non-biased working group put together to really look at these rules and evaluate what is already on the table in the case of Santa Cruz County and maybe coming back. We're not sure. It could be January 13th. We don't know. Now it's very confusing. Or in the case of Monterey County, maybe a year out. So I hope to have on my program coming up in the future someone from the California Energy Commission, who is the body that is the alternate for jurisdiction for approving these battery energy storage system, large grid scale projects, and is fueling the fervor of Santa Cruz County supervisors to not lose local control and to quickly shove through whatever, in parentheses, New Leaf Energy, in parentheses, has written for us to approve. And that way we do not lose local control. My question is, would losing local control in the case of Santa Cruz County's oversight of this facility be such a bad thing? I'm kind of thinking it would not be such a bad thing for the people to let the California Energy Commission really dig into this and insist that the developer, New Leaf Energy, Sequoia Energy, LLC, would have to fund a complete environmental impact analysis and also work with the local fire officials and also pay attention to whatever level of rules this county might have at the time. I am not convinced that the county of Santa Cruz is going to make this developer do that. And I think that is caused by the developer essentially writing things to push it through and not have to do a full environmental impact report, certainly not pay for it, and also that there is a real conflict of interest within the Santa Cruz County governance. 5th District County Supervisor Monica Martinez sits on the board of Central Coast Community Energy and their policy board, and our new County Administrative Officer Nicole Coburn will assume that position on the Executive and Operations Board of Central Coast Community Energy, 3CE, who is desperate to get local, large-scale energy storage projects to reduce their costs and to support their mission to have 100% renewable energy sources by the year 2030. The state's goal is 2045. 3CE goal is 2030. Santa Cruz County's climate adaptation plan is by 2030. You see how those two gloves fit the same hand? There's a conflict of interest here, and I have no confidence that the County of Santa Cruz will cause New Leaf Energy, Sequoia Energy, LLC, to do a thorough environmental analysis. I'm just saying, that's my thought. I've gone to these meetings for a long time, and I've watched what's happening, and I've watched how the county is very much enticed to, when a dollar is waved in front of them, to approve things. I have before me, let me see if I can find it, a list through Public Records Act request information. Here's what New Leaf has waved under the county's nose. This is called an executive summary of project fiscal and economic impacts. This is by a consultant. London Motor Advisors has evaluated the anticipated fiscal and economic impacts of New Leaf Energy's proposed Seahawk Energy storage facility development in Watsonville. Newly generated impacts of the project over the planned 20 years of operation Here's the first one. Estimated to generate annually over $2 million in new property tax revenue, which is captured 100% by the county. Well, that's not what we're told. We're told that we only get to keep 13 cents on a dollar of our county property taxes. Here's the second one. Sales tax generated from the construction of the facility is estimated at almost $18 million. The County of Santa Cruz's net share is estimated to be $6.5 million on a one-time basis. What does that mean? Does that mean they're going to hire Granite Construction to construct it, or what does that mean? Sales tax generated, this is the third one, sales tax generated from the purchase of additional batteries and supplies, facility augmentation in years 4 and 9 is estimated to be almost $4 million. The County of Santa Cruz's net share is estimated to be $1.5 million. Now, let me tell you, they have to augment it. That means augment in years 4 and 9, because that's when these lithium batteries start degrading and catching fire. That's why they're saying that. The county, here's the fourth one, the County of Santa Cruz will receive an estimated $50,000 in impact fees paid from the development and an additional $11,000 of land sale transfer tax. I looked into this a bit. There's no deed conveyance for this property. It's at 90 Minto Road, but New Leaf does have a purchase agreement and option to buy with the neighboring property. Here's the next one. The project is expected to provide $100,000 for training and equipment to the local fire protection district. Now, if that's not a disgusting crumb, I don't know what is. And then lastly, the project will support 50 jobs during construction, as well as 5 permanent jobs related to the operation of the facility. I don't know where those jobs are going to be, because I've looked at the materials on file at the county building, and it says that nobody can be there at the site because these 300-some containers will be emitting toxic gas, and all monitoring will have to be done remotely. Well, that's enough of the BESS situation. Call your supervisor and let them know your thoughts. And now I would like to move over to our guest for the last half hour, Miss Kris Kirby, and let's see if I can bring her on. Hello. Hello, Kris, can you hear me?
I can. Hi, Becky.
Excellent. Hello, Kris. Gee, it's good to hear you.
It's good to hear your voice, and I love the subjects you're talking about.
Thank you. I hope you heard the first hour, the search and rescue communication efforts. It was a real honor to have those 2 amateur radio volunteers here in the studio and talking about all the volunteer efforts from multiple counties that came, and everybody's part in it. So.
Yeah, I heard about that up here, too.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. We just, unfortunately, she has not been found yet, Jeannie Burke, but we're all going to hold out good hopes for her and her family.
Yeah.
Well, Kris Kirby, we miss you here in Santa Cruz County.
I miss you, but I don't miss Santa Cruz County. But I'll tell you, we have our share of problems up here, too.
Well,
it's
first, tell listeners who may not know who you are and the amazing thing that you did with your family over a year ago. Introduce yourself, please.
Thank you. I lived in Santa Cruz County for 27 years, and last September, it's hard to believe it's been over a year. Last August, we found a house up in Grants Pass that we were willing to give up our lives there for, and we packed everything up within 45 days and moved up here, and absolutely love it.
Yeah, nice.
So I had a show on the other radio station, and then on Santa Cruz Voice with my friend Kristen. We're still good friends. We've considered coming back, but retirement takes up a lot of time. That's a good way
You
to
are
put it.
busy. You are very, very busy.
Yes, I was talking to some people yesterday for Thanksgiving. We've gotten involved with the Elks Club here, and we had an 85-year-old elk over because he doesn't really have any family. And we were talking about how last Thanksgiving we didn't really know anybody. Last Christmas we didn't really know anybody. But after New Year's last year, we've got involved in a lot, and now I'm very, very busy. It's really interesting, and we have a lot of friends, which is really nice too.
Yeah. So
Life changes.
that's the piece that when I hear people talking about pulling up roots and moving to a new place, as you and your family did, they often say, "I would miss my friends." And I know that you miss your friends. We miss you, but you do make new friends, and it is a different picture. But in your case, it sounds like you have no regrets.
I really, really don't. I miss you terribly. I miss Carmen. I miss a lot of people. But you make new friends, and there's always a telephone. And Mark was talking about having to go down there, and up until now, I'm like, I don't really want to go back down there.
Yeah.
But I said, I might be willing to go back down there. So I might be ready now. I wasn't before. So we'll see. We just traveled to Washington, D.C. at the beginning of November, and that was really the first to really get out of here and see the rest of the world. And, we bought 7 acres. We've got 2 Great Danes. We've got a lot of property that needs, we have to take care of stuff. We're on the Rogue River, which we absolutely love, and it's beautiful. But, you forget that the rest of the world is going on, so you can always come back.
That's right. And tell us why you went to Washington, D.C., and tell us about that trip.
Yeah, well, we've always wanted to. As I'm getting older, which I'm doing, I said, we better do this before, it's too late where we can't, because we knew there was a lot of walking and going to places involved. So I said, let's do it now. So we mentioned it to a bunch of people up here, and who ended up going were some friends of ours, Donnell and Kevin. They just wanted to go see it. They're in their 50s, so it was easy for them. We took our area representative, who we've become good friends with. He and his wife and his chief of staff came with us, and he had some meetings with some. He had a meeting at the White House, and she had him set up at some meetings. So a couple days they went and did what he needed to do, but then he'd join us. Once he went and took off his suit, he'd join us back on our adventures. And then Kristen and Mark were supposed to come, but they just had moved her mom to Scottsdale, and like that week before, and they couldn't leave her. She's at an assisted living place, and they couldn't leave her. So they didn't come. My older son joined us, and we rented a house on VRBO in Alexandria, Virginia.
Oh, wow.
And we rode electric scooters everywhere. I ended up, in 9 days, I put 53 miles on this scooter, which that's a long way.
It is. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, that was the only way. We saw, it was during the lockdowns, and we saw everything we wanted to see. We didn't necessarily get into everywhere we wanted to. Like the Smithsonian's were shut down, but we, scootered all around the buildings. The Bible Museum was open. The Holocaust Museum was open. We went into the engraving and printing of money. Ooh. There was a whole stack of $100 bills stacked up big, and the guy, we were kind of like in a glass, hallway thing. He holds up the sign and it says $47 million is just sitting right there. So that was really, the one thing we did not go see was the mint, and I wish we had, because now that the pennies are done being printed, that would have been a cool thing to see.
Yeah. So
Did you
meet with any of your representatives while you were there in Washington?
Well, we tried, but it was hard because of the shutdown. We did have to go. I have a high school friend who lives there, and her husband have both worked at the White House and worked for Congress. He was the Secretary of Congress for 1 year, and they both lived and worked. They still live there, but still worked for a lot of places. So we met with them on the Monday, and we had to go into our congressman's place to get passes to go into where the representatives do their thing into the, everything you see on TV, we saw. And we saw Schumer, pathetic Schumer, saying that the whole lockdown was Trump's fault. I wanted to yell, "No, you're a liar," but obviously we couldn't yell anything.
Yeah.
But that was interesting to watch him. He completely flat out lied with everything he was saying. But then we went, we did go to our Congressman Cliff Bentz, who's been at our house because we've held a couple fundraisers for different political people, because that's the kind of property we bought. And we went to his office. He was back here because of the shutdowns. But his secretary, once she heard who we were, she walked us down into the tunnels underneath, because they don't walk across the street to go over to the Capitol building. It's all underneath.
Yeah.
There's a dry cleaners, a post office, a restaurant. There's all kinds of stuff underneath there. So she took us all over the place. That was really a cool day.
Wow.
Yeah, the weather was perfect. There weren't that many people because of the shutdowns, I guess. It got busier before the last weekend. We went from a Friday to a Sunday. So it got busier, and we could sense that, things were going to change. It was right after that vote, and everyone said, after the vote, they're going to open things up, and they did. So we saw everything. We did a nighttime tour, which was really cool to see the Lincoln Memorial and Washington, everything at night.
Yeah.
We scootered that town. We were like a scooter gang, is what we were saying. Because we were, I hate to say I wasn't following all the stoplights. You look and see if cars are coming, and you just kind of, move on. You just get going.
Beep your horn and off you go.
Yeah, they have like little bicycle bells on it.
Oh.
You turn this thing and a ding, 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 like, get out of the way, people. We're coming. So that was fun.
Yeah. Now, we are all saddened by the recent news of the 2 National Guardsmen that were shot, when I read last night passed away. Did you see these troops?
All the
how
time.
did you feel? How did you feel in terms of security there? What was that like for you?
Well, I didn't see any trouble brewing by any means, but we saw the National Guard guys walking all over the place. They were always in threes, and it was almost like they didn't have anything to do, but they were walking everywhere. Sometimes they'd hold doors, like if we came out of the metro, they'd be there and hold doors for us. I was only in one unsafe situation. It was on one of the metro trains. These 2 dudes we sat down, and our friend Kevin found a phone sitting there, and he holds it up. He's like, and the train was pretty not crowded at all. And this one guy said, "Oh yeah, that's mine." And Kevin's like, "Well, prove to me that it's yours." And it was weird. I think they were working in tandem. We kind of spread out on the train there, so they couldn't, like, it was weird. It was a weird vibe for sure. And he was trying to hand me a $20 bill, and I'm like, "No, I'm not taking your money. I'm not going to touch what you have." And we got away. We got off at a stop, and that was the end of that. But that was the only thing that was weird of feeling uncomfortable. But yeah, the National Guards, we probably saw, I don't know, maybe 15 groups of them throughout 9 days. And they were all very, very kind. I think most of them were from like Mississippi and West Virginia and that, back east. But they were all very, very nice, and it didn't seem like they had much to do. And yeah, where the shooting happened, we had been right there. So that was weird when we heard about it, and went, wow, you just don't know.
Yeah.
There were a few protests, and one of them was the nationality that the guy was. There was some protests of that. We just steered clear of that stuff. They had like a lung cancer big thing on the mall, and a lot of people there for that. That day it was a run or something, and I I was trying to take my scooter through some wet granite fines, kind of dirt-ish area, and I ate it. It was
Oh, no.
8 days. 8 days in, I crashed.
Oh, no.
It was my own fault. I had gone through some mud a few days before, and I had slowed down for it, and it kind of, slid out, and I didn't fall or anything. But I saw this wetness and this mud, and I thought, well, I'm not going to let that happen. So I gave it more power, and they had some electrical cords going across this walkway, and they had like those plastic things that kind of go up, hinge, flatten out, and then hinge over the cords.
Yeah.
And Mark said I high centered on the plastic thing, and I had both wheels were off the ground, and my scooter stopped, but I landed on my butt in this big puddle, and I was soaking wet.
Oh, gosh.
And embarrassed, and luckily I didn't really hurt myself, but
that's good.
I got back up, and we went to the American Revolution, the Daughters of the American Revolution building. That's where we were headed. Apparently my grandmother and my great-grandmother were members of that. So we went in, I went in the bathroom, took my sweatshirt off, turned it around, and put it around my waist, and we just trudged on. It dried. That was the only incident we had the whole time.
Wow.
But it was an incredible trip. I mean, we saw and did a lot. Some days we'd fix breakfast in this house we rented. It was like a 6-bedroom house. It was big, 3 stories high. And we fixed breakfast. We'd get ready to go, and we'd always have scooters waiting for us out in front because that's where we left them the night before. And we'd leave like 8:30, 9 maybe. And sometimes one night we didn't get back till 11 at night.
Wow.
Yeah,
Full days.
We just went. Yeah, we went.
Wow.
When everyone's getting hungry, it's like, all right, let's stop and have food. And we did, and it was a lot of fun.
Wow.
So Mark wants to go back in April to go to the Smithsonian because we definitely missed out on all that.
Oh, those are incredible, and they're all free. Yeah. They're all free.
Yeah. That Holocaust Museum, have you ever been to that?
No, I have not.
That was, you didn't say a word until some lady, she's what did she say to me? She said, I was a high school teacher. Not many people were talking at this place. And that she would have an Auschwitz survivor come to her classroom once a year. She taught high school until the lady died. And, I said, that's really awesome. You were able to do that. And I said, I don't understand how they equate Trump to Hitler. I'm just having a hard time with this. And wrong person to say that to, because she started, giving me her 2 cents worth, and I just walked away. I said, I'm not going to discuss this with you.
Yeah.
But the Museum of the Bible was amazing. I mean, just amazing stuff. If anybody's thinking about doing it, go do it.
Yeah.
And ride the scooters. They were the only way we saw everything we did.
Yeah, it's a big place, isn't it? Spread out.
Huge.
Yeah.
The National Cathedral is kind of a little bit out of the way, and we took an Uber to that one day. And then they just had Cheney's funeral there the other day, or last week. And it's like we were just there and standing where all these ex-presidents and everybody... That's what's cool is go, wow, we were just there.
We were there.
So that kind of stuff was fun.
Yeah. For those of you just tuning in, welcome to Community Matters. I'm speaking with Miss Kris Kirby, a former Santa Cruz County longtime resident that pulled up roots and moved to Grants Pass, Oregon, and is doing all kinds of interesting things, just returning from a big trip to Washington, D.C. And now, Kris, you've told me you're running for political office in Grants Pass. Talk with us about that.
Well, Grants Pass has their share of issues, as everyone does. As you probably know, the homeless situation, and that's still a battle because our governor's done this, I forget what it's, 3115, AB 3115, that we have to provide for these people. So that's a whole different issue. But they recall people like change their underwear up here. It's crazy. Huh. So we have 3 commissioners. We don't have supervisors. I'm friends with 2. I mean, I know all 3 of them, but I'm friends with 2 of them. And they threatened to recall these people before they even took office. So they have to wait 109 days, and they have been out getting signatures. They just turned in their signatures this last week to recall them. And I think they're doing great things. One disgruntled employee who took the buyout, because they came in kind of like Doge did with the government, and they cut a lot of the county high people up because people just get too comfortable and they stop doing their job, but taking that good paycheck.
Yeah.
So they cut a lot of people for that, and that's one of the complaints. They were in negotiations over the library. Libraries are run completely different up here. It's you get taxed specifically for it. Anyways, they were out pretty much not telling the truth about why they wanted to get rid of them. So they got the signatures, and we want this clerk, county clerk, to verify all the signatures, not just the statistical sampling thing they do. They also do it. I talked to Tricia Weber. I told her I was running, and she laughed because we're friends down there.
In Santa Cruz County, our elections clerk, Tricia Weber.
Yeah. So they all do this statistical sampling, but they recalled another commissioner last year, right as we were moving in, and I know him now, but I didn't know him then, and they did this 10%, and he is in court. It's cost this county tens of thousands of dollars because he's suing, saying that she should have done all the signatures. It's only like 6,400 signatures. It could easily be done, but she's insisting on only using the statistical sampling, which is about 10%.
Wow,
so
that's not
one
much.
Of the commissioners, people have asked me to run for this position, even though nobody knows me. Enough people know me, I guess. So I was in the newspaper. I did an interview with a guy called Mike Jones. His podcast is Mike on Mike. If anybody wants to watch it, it's good. It was a good one, and he's real comfortable. He's real easy to talk to. And I realized, I said, I kind of like doing this again. Maybe I'll have to get back on the radio up here. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
But as soon as I did these radio show on KMed up here and Mike on Mike, these people were saying that they were going to recall me. I haven't even gone through any kind of election. I mean, it's the weirdest thing up here. I don't know. I know that they've recalled somebody down in Santa Cruz at one point, but this is just like common. They just do it.
Wow.
Even though, and they don't like that that these two commissioners are conservatives, but even though the majority of the people up here are conservative, it's the loudmouth liberals that are doing this.
Interesting.
It is very interesting. I don't really want the position. I kind of like not working. And I'm not saying the clerk does a bad job. We just want her to verify all the signatures.
So it's a way to really raise the issue of not many ballots being verified. Is there an election code that says you're only required to do 10%, but can they? Okay, so
it says you can do both. I mean, it does. A lot of people say it doesn't say that, but I read it as, and I've heard about it, that yes, you can do both. So.
And it's at the discretion of the county's election clerk?
Exactly. And so we just turned in signatures on this no tax Oregon. Our governor is, her name, I can't even say this without grinning. Her name is Tina Kotek. Get that one. And she's lesbian, has her wife in there with her, and and it has nothing to do with her being lesbian or her name or anything, but she is the worst. She wants to tax us for everything, so she's going to raise our DMV fees, which are pretty reasonable. She's going to raise the gas tax. She's raising everything for ODOT, which is the Department of Transportation, but it's not just ODOT that gets the money. So they had 30 days to get, I think, 70 or 80,000 signatures. They got 150 within a week and a half because people do not want this to happen. So that's another thing, that they have to verify 70 or 80,000 signatures. That I could see doing the statistical sampling, because that's a lot of signatures to verify. But 6,400 is not real tough.
Right. So it sounds like the governor of Oregon is following in the footsteps of the governor of California.
Correct. Oh, correct. Yeah, she's pretty bad. And
oh my goodness.
She signed in this tax, this whole thing, and all the people of Oregon are saying, let us vote on it. She didn't want us to vote on it. She signed it in, and then she went on a whirlwind 2-week all-expense first-class trip to, I think she went to Japan.
Oh, lovely.
And she had like 3 days left. She came back, and she had 3 days left to make this into law. So she waited until we had just a very short amount of time to get these signatures, but the citizens here were able to do it. A lot of people worked very hard.
Good work.
A lot of people were running to sign it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just wrong. The taxes up here, I mean, like, we don't have sales tax. That is the best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah. Don't ever give that up, Kris. Don't give that up.
Well, I just was reading something earlier, and they said that if this tax thing that she wants does not go through, that she's going to give up this. She's going to make us all pay sales tax.
That seems like that has to go before the vote of the people. They've tried that before.
Yeah. So it's just, California has its issues for sure, but Oregon also has a whole different set of issues.
Mm-hmm. And you have moved up there and have jumped into the middle of it all. Good work. Yeah. I'm proud of you.
I know. Becky called me where were we the other last
You were
week?
protesting. You were out on a protest when I phoned you.
I said, of all people, and I wouldn't have answered anyone else's phone call but yours. Becky, you'd be so proud of me.
Well, Kris Kirby, you are really going great guns up there. They're lucky to have you in Grants Pass, Oregon.
Well,
what would be
not on social media? That's not what I hear. But thank
those
you.
recall people.
I want you guys to come up and see us.
Yeah,
I love it up here.
Yeah. Well, what's one thing you would say to someone thinking about moving out of California, Kris?
I say do it.
Yeah.
I really have zero regrets. As you know, one of my sons has sold his house and moved up here. He lives above our garage in an apartment. One son still lives in Santa Cruz. One's in Indiana now. A huge jet boat just went by on the river.
Oh.
Wow, with a big rooster tail. And then I have one son that lives in Austin, Texas. So I've got one son up here, and he loves it.
Uh-huh.
The hiking and the bike trails and just the nature thing is amazing.
Yeah, and the cost of living is a whole different thing.
For sure.
Much less.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, but we have a pretty big property, so
yeah.
Mark loves the tractor store.
And your chickens. You have chickens too, don't you?
17 chickens. Not the regular tractor store. He just loves tractor implements. He's learned a lot about that.
Yeah. Nice.
All right. Well, thank you for having me, and you're welcome up here anytime. We love it.
All right. Kris, thank you so much for joining us here on Community Matters. All the best to you.
Thank you, Becky.
Thank you.
Bye.
Likewise. Bye.
Bye.
So there we have it. Kris Kirby from Oregon, formerly of Santa Cruz County. Next week, we'll be having speakers here talking about the local water issues. I hope you'll join me. I'll have private well representatives from the Santa Cruz Mid-County Groundwater Agency here to talk with you about the tax they might be imposing on your private well. There's a spot open in Santa Margarita for private well owners, representatives. So tune in next week and we'll be talking about water. And maybe the Civil Air Patrol will be able to join us to talk with us about their efforts in the recent search and rescue for Jeannie Burke. Thanks so much for listening today, and we'll see you next week. Take care.